contradictory or controversial statement, because there are some people who claims to be prophets and yet really they're not really prophesying from the Word of God. There are many today who are self-proclaimed prophets, and this is what Jesus Christ is telling us: beware of false prophets, even in our very midst today. Again, if you go to verse 16 to verse 20, you will know them by their fruits. And Jesus Christ gave a very good illustration here that people during his time can really understand. A good tree will only bear good fruit. A bad tree will bear bad fruit. You will know them by their fruit. You know that it is a mango tree because of the fruit. You know that it is an apple tree because of the fruit. You are not an expert who will just look at the tree and say, oh, this is a mango tree. Oh, you're not that expert. But once you know the fruit, then you know that that tree is a fruit-bearing tree and it is a mango tree. So Jesus Christ used this illustration in order the people to understand. Because during the time, there were practically, many of the people were involved in agriculture. And Jesus was a good teacher. He was using an object lesson in order to communicate a message, a spiritual message. And that object lesson was the tree and fruit. And so here again, you will know them by their fruits. Now, what are the fruits of a false prophet? You will know the fruit of the false prophet, which is evident in the lives of his followers. You will know that he is a false prophet by the lives of the followers. If you will try to look back into some people who claim to be prophets, and you will try to look into the lives of their followers, you will know that they were following a false prophet. There are many cultic religions today, and you will know that this person is a false prophet because of the evidence of the lives of their followers. The evidence there is the life. That's the fruit. That's the fruit that you will know that really that person is called or a false prophet. Now in 1 John chapter 4 verse 1, this is really a warning of John. Not the Gospel of John, but the letter of John, 1 John chapter 4. Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirit, whether they are of God. Because many false prophets have gone into the world. And then in verse 5, they are of the world. Therefore, they seek or they speak as of the world, and the world hears them. And then in verse 6, we are of God. He who knows God hears us. But this we know, that the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. Now, John was telling the people during his time, and even us today, beloved, beware of false prophets, or test the spirit. For every person, there is always the spirit behind. Do you know that when we were not born again, I was under the influence of the spirit of alcohol? When you were under the spirit of alcohol, you say many things. You say bold things. You say wild things. You act wild because you were under that spirit. We know that when we were not born again, we were under the control of a certain spirit. A spirit of lust, spirit of appetite, spirit of covetousness. There are many spirits that are controlling us. In like manner, the false prophets are also being controlled by the spirit of false prophecy. And that spirit is under the influence of Satan. Now, Satan will always come up with a counterfeit. Satan will not come up with something original. It's always a copycat. It's always a counterfeit. And so this is what he's very good at. He doesn't believe in copyrights. There's no such thing as copyrights for Satan. He does not believe in that. He will always come up with something that looks like the original. In the same way, the false prophets will always come up with a statement that looks like true and original. But really, it is a deception. And so Jesus Christ was saying at this time, we should be careful, beware of false prophets. I would like to enumerate the evident characteristics of the followers who are following the false prophet. It's not in my PowerPoint, but I just want to mention this. Number one, they will be professing Christians whose loyalty is more than personalities than the Word of God. There are, I'll repeat this again. There are many professing Christians who will follow, and their loyalty is more on the personality rather than in the Word of God. They see this particular speaker or preacher who has a very charismatic personality, and they are drawn into it. They're loyal to this person, not to the Word of God. That's one evidence that you will see. They will follow this person, whatever other people will say, because they're so attracted to the charismatic personality of this person. Their loyalty is to the person, not to the Word of God. Second thing that is evident to those who are following false prophets, they will be more concerned with their desires rather than to glorify and honor God. Their doctrine will be man-centered rather than God-centered. People want to follow a certain path or a certain teacher will only give them like something good. They feel good all the time. All the time they will feel good. Now, there is a verse here in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 3. It says here, "For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desires, because they have itching ears, they will only heap up for themselves teachers." So people that will follow this kind of teachers or false prophets are people who only want to hear what they want to hear. They only want to hear a message, what they want to hear, that will justify their actions, that will justify or that will compromise their belief, not according to what the Word of God says. The third evidence of those who are following a false teacher, they will accept human teachings instead of the Word of God. And they will accept traditions even when these teachings contradict the Word of God. There are many doctrines and sound religion is not based in the Word of God. It's based on tradition. It's based on human teachings and philosophy. And this is dangerous because people are drawn to it and they don't realize it is in contrary to the Word of God. The fourth thing, they will seek after and respond to religious experiences and supernatural manifestations as their final authority in validating the truth, rather than grounding themselves in the whole counsel in the Word of God. There are people who will follow a leader because they will experience a spiritual high, the supernatural, rather than what is based in the Word of God. There was one time a lady who proclaimed to be a prophet. I think there was a mistake. The